Yo, we back here live again. Another episode of Red Close Podcast. I'm your host, Rashawn Bellinger, aka Rob Boogie 215. Got a special guest coming from Jamestown, up there, upstate New York. Ex-teammate of mine in the PBL, playing for a team out in Erie. My brother, now a head basketball coach at Jamestown Community College. My brother, Xavier Churnac. What's up, bro?
What's up, man? Thank you for having me. Good to see that you in the podcast space.
I know who would have known me though. Who didn't used to say anything.
Right.
How everything been going up there?
Man, it's been going good. Coming off of a tough year. Still trying to figure it out. Just finished my 5th year as the head coach. Recruiting mode right now. But, outside of that, everything else is going good. Family's good. Can't complain.
Good. Let's get right into it. Where did your love for basketball begin?
I would say my love really began, around age 9. I think that's when I really started to, take a liking to it, picking your favorite players and stuff like that. I remember just seeing T-Mac. T-Mac was one of my favorite players back then. And then going to a local rec in New York City, Carmine, Tony Dapolito Center is what it was known as. But, that's kind of where it started for me.
Are you originally from Jamestown?
No, I'm from New York City. I was born in Jamaica. Actually came to the States at the age of 5 and grew up in New York City, all through grade school, all the way through high school, and then coming to Jamestown, for college. So that's kind of how I got introduced to Jamestown, New York.
So, most folks they be in particular or where they from. So, out here, if you're from Philly, they're gonna tell you what part of the city you're from. So what part of New York City did you come in and move into?
Predominantly Harlem, Spanish Harlem to be exact. I grew up in Queens for a little bit, grew up in Brooklyn, lived in the Bronx for quite a while, but for the most of the time, it was Harlem, New York. Kind of like right where Harlem starts, 99th and 2nd was where I grew up at. George Washington House is right across from the Metropolitan Hospital. So, that's kind of where from like 12 on up was where we lived until I went to college.
So tell me about us both being from a big city. Your city a little bigger, well, a lot bigger, overpopulated. Tell me how the high school basketball scene was out there.
Man, a lot of players, a lot. I mean, obviously there's always the top guys that are in the city, that you hear, the dudes that are ranked, the dudes that are getting all the looks, but it's way more players out there than that. Not everybody gets the publicity, or at the time it was, Gauchos was big, New Heights, Long Island Lightning, you had a lot of the big name guys over there, a couple other AAU programs as well, but, very competitive. You could get some run damn near anywhere, whether it was Harlem, Brooklyn, Bronx, the famous courts that you hear about, Dykeman, Rucker, so you run into a lot of these guys and very competitive scene, but it also builds your character too.
So tell me, New York being overpopulated, how did you separate yourself from the mass?
Really just trying to be the best that I could be. I was fortunate enough to cross paths with a coach that coached me at Riverside Hawks, Riverside Church. And that kind of really introduced me into the structure of basketball, understanding what it was like to play organized basketball and getting ready for the college level, not really knowing, going through that's what our coaches was putting us through. So I just always tried to stand out just by being coachable, working hard, trying to be reliable, and then also working on my craft and just hoping that somebody would like me one day.
So come here, you just name a historic place, Riverside. Some of the greats come from there, from up that way. What was some of your toughest competition? Just playing, we're not even going to high school yet. Going into playing in Riverside, playing outside. What was some of your toughest competition?
Yeah, I remember we crossed paths with Andre Drummond at one point. I think he was either a year younger than me at the time. He played for CBC, Connecticut Basketball Club. We ran into his team up at the Hall of Fame Classic in Massachusetts. In the 16, that was 16U at the time. Played against Mo Harkless when he was on Long Island Lightning. I remember the Panthers. Rafer Austin was coaching that squad. You know, they had a couple guys that went Division One. And then even I remember Ty Jerome when I was at Riverside. He was younger, but he was playing up. So I know he was playing 12U, but I think he was younger than that. Him and Donovan Mitchell actually played together, and I remember them two, watching them play when they was youngins. So to kind of see where they're at now, it's kind of impressive. Obviously Ty won the national championship with Virginia, and now he's playing for the Cavs, and obviously doing really well, playing some heavy minutes. So I crossed paths with quite a few guys, especially on the AAU scene. We ran into. I saw Kyrie at one point. We didn't play against him, but he was at the same tournament up at Pitt Jam Fest in Pittsburgh. So that was before the whole EYBL circuit.
Yeah.
That's when you used to go to the Baltimore, I forget what it was called, the Baltimore Nike tournament. You had Pitt Jam Fest. They would Rumble in the Bronx. Nerlens Noel ran into him up there. So, you cross paths with a few dudes, on the AAU scene in New York City.
All right. So talk about your high school. What high school did you go to?
I went to the High School of Art and Design. They were Class A in the PSAL at the time. I believe they dropped down to Class B, or I know they switched it up on how they do it in the city now, but at the time it was Class A. My high school only had a varsity team. We didn't have a JV team, so I was able to play 4 years at that school. I actually tried to transfer to Cardinal Hayes after my freshman year. My AAU coaches was trying to get me out of there and just trying to get me in a better basketball situation. And then also the boarding school. I almost went to boarding school. I remember I took visits to Kent, Trinity Paulding, places like that. That was upstate New York. But due to the finances and stuff, I really wasn't able to go. So I ended up staying at Art and Design for 4 years. And, my freshman year, it was really a team full of seniors. It was myself, the point guard that was with me. He was also a freshman, Andrew Joseph. We actually went to JUCO together as well. Owen Brackett. So it was like 3 freshmen on the team and like 2 sophomores. The rest were seniors. So, didn't play a ton my freshman year, but got a chance to learn a lot from them guys. Unfortunately, we lost a teammate who died in a car accident, halfway through the year. Louis Seda, shout out to him and his family, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
I just remember, my freshman year, I'll never forget when he told me, like, yo, one day you're going to do something, like, you got a chance. So something like that always stuck with me. But, learned a lot my freshman year. And then, sophomore year, I became the captain of the team young. And I believe I averaged like around 18 points a game my sophomore year. And it just kind of went up each year all the way through senior year. Still playing AAU, of course, during that time.
So how was the culture at your school in high school? Was it you guys just like surviving? Y'all all got along. Y'all was one big family. How was culture? That's what I'm trying to teach kids now about culture. Everybody is, in the transfer game, trying to team up with certain teammates in the recruiting game in high school. But it's just about wins. It's not about building a culture. How was your culture in high school?
Yeah, our culture, man, we had to learn a lot early. We got better each year. But I think a lot of that helps because you're with the same guys. And then obviously other guys tried out each year and they made the team, but they also got better even when they didn't make the team. I remember we had one kid try out my sophomore year. He didn't make the team, came back junior year, and he made the team. But he stuck with it. Because, back then, you couldn't really jump from high school to high school like you kind of can now. I know some states it's kind of restrictive on how you could do that. But, it's not really too much hopping around like the way you can now. Like you wasn't jumping from AAU team to AAU team. You kind of just stuck with who you was with and figured it out. You know what I mean? If you wasn't playing, you had to work on your game to force the coach to make you play.
That's a fact. That's that era. That's the good era. That's the great era. All right. So tell me about going into your senior year. I know you mentioned JUCO because I'm a JUCO product myself. What was your recruiting like for college getting to the next level?
My recruiting, I didn't really get too much looks up going into my senior year. the one look that I did have was because of a camp I went to my junior year, after my junior year that summer. It was called Teachers Hoops. It was upstate. I forget where it was upstate, but it was a lot of guys up there. And I ended up playing well, making an all-star team. And some of the counselors up there were coaches, and they had some connections. So they connected me with NJIT, which was a D1 in Jersey. They were actually in the transition phase from going D2 to D1, so they didn't have a conference. So I remember I took a unofficial visit there, met with Coach Jim Ingalls, who's now at Columbia University. He's the head coach up there, still doing a good job. Got a chance to meet with him. And actually, one of their players was a counselor at the camp that I was at. So he didn't even really know that I was coming to visit. So when he saw me walking on campus when I visited, it was good to see him. They showed me around the campus. It was right. I think it was right near Newark, so it was right in the city, of Jersey. So that was kind of like my first exposure to taking a tour on a campus like that. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to that school due to like SAT scores, and that's kind of where I struggled was my SAT scores. My grades were good, my GPA was good, but
same here.
a school like that, you got to have a high math score, and math was not my lane. So, that's part of the reason why I didn't end up going there. But I had a lot of other like a couple like a lot of D3 schools, couple D2s flirted, but I didn't end up getting a chance to go to them places and whatnot.
That's crazy, the timetable, because my guest before you, that's the school he went to, NJIT. He wound up going there. Y'all would have been teammates. Shout out my boy Kyle Howard. What's up, Eden? But yeah, that'd have been crowd. I would love to see y'all two together playing together though. That's my boy.
Yeah, that's crazy. See, small world.
Yes. So the school you chose, how you end up getting to the JUCO that you went to?
That's kind of a funny story because originally, coming out of high school, I wanted to go post grad. Everybody tried to go post grad. They could try to get some more looks. At the time, not really knowing the process of that, how that really works. I actually did not decide to go to junior college till like the last week before classes started at Jamestown. So the coach that had reached out to me was Coach Brian Hodson, who's now the head coach at Arkansas State. He reached out to me through Facebook. Now, back then, that was kind of weird because Facebook had just came out like 2 years prior to that. So like a coach hitting you up on Facebook is kind of like, this might be a little suspect. But, I had a conversation with him, kind of stayed in touch with him. Then I got him in touch with my mom. I don't know what he told my mom, but my mom was like, you're going to this school. So, that's kind of how I got introduced to Jamestown. I never took a visit, anything like that. My mom just put me on a bus up to Buffalo, New York, and Coach Brian, picked me up from the bus station. And that might have been the first place my mom ever sent me without her going and checking it out first. I think it was just kind of a gut feeling, with her and based on her conversation with Coach Brian and whatnot. So that's kind of how I got up there. Long story short with that, I ended up going to Jamestown with somebody from my neighborhood. He was a little older than me, Zaid Estimate. Shout out Zaid. Literally, we from the same neighborhood, used to play in the park. We wasn't really close like that, but we knew each other in passing. So we ended up doing our freshman year together up at Jamestown. So Coach Brian kind of picked us up at the same time, at that bus station.
So how was it, like the adjustment, your first adjustment from being in New York City to James? I know my adjustment being from Philadelphia, being up that way. But how was your first adjustment as a youngin coming up there to Jamestown from the city?
Yeah, at first, I was obviously a little nervous. I didn't really know where I was going. I didn't know what Jamestown looked like. But in my mind, it's like, it's going to look like the city. I'm thinking, they're going to have buildings and all of this stuff. Man, when I got here, I saw some of the home. I mean, you know what it's like. You've been up here before.
Yeah.
I seen some of the houses, and I'm like, man, these houses are a little run down. They're a little old. It was a couple buildings like in downtown Jamestown, but I'm like, all right, this is different. But then when I got to the campus, I was like, all right, this is a nice campus. But, at definitely that point in time, I'm thinking, all right, this is how it's supposed to look. I didn't really realize, what we had in Jamestown until we started going to play other JUCOs. And I'm like, their campus don't really look like, like what we have. Like we have dorms, You know, the gym
Yes.
is right there. The classes, like everything is in walking distance. I'm talking about less than 5 minutes to get to anywhere you need to get on campus.
Yes.
I was worried about being homesick, you know, obviously being that far away from home long term. But what really helped me was having my high school point guard come up here with me. Him and his brother, older brother, actually came to JUCO with us here, and I think that really helped because I remember the first week I stayed in their apartment until I got situated in the dorms. So that helped me
Mm-hmm.
a lot because me and him are best friends till this day. Was
Mm-hmm.
just at his wedding, you know, last year. So, you know, having him with me, you know, I always play well when I got a good PG with me, and he was gonna get
Mm-hmm.
me the ball. You know, I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he kind of played just like Rondo. You know, that was actually his style of play. You know, everybody used to call him Rondo. So it was good having him on campus with me. So that definitely helped my adjustment. The coaches helped my adjustment as well, especially Coach Brian. He always made sure I was good. And then the people that I met here also helped too. Real nice
Mm-hmm.
people I met on campus, very friendly. You know, coming from where we come from,
They don't
everybody,
even
you
speak.
walking in the street, everybody just trying to get to where they need to go. You
Yeah.
walk in here, hey, how you doing? Like they
Yeah. They
would
don't even
really
speak
stop
where we
and
at.
ask you.
Yeah.
And we don't even
Yeah.
speak. So it was just a welcoming place to be. So I think that just really helped my adjustment.
Mm-hmm. What's some of your most memorable games in Jamestown? Playing for
You
Jamestown.
know, my freshman year, you know, was really eye opening for me because, you know, coming out of high school, you always think JUCO is like the 13th grade. Like, oh, I'm going to go JUCO for a year, then I'm going to get to where I want to go. Not thinking that JUCO, it's a grind, man. Like, you playing against some dudes that's hungry. You playing against men. One of my most memorable moments my freshman year was when we went down to Frederick, Maryland. We went down to their tournament. I remember we was
They
late
did that
coming to
one.
the game. You know, we drove the van. The coaches drove us in the vans. We was a little late getting to the game. So when we got there, these guys was already warming up. Man, I'm telling you, they got to have 26, 27-year-olds out there, like
Yeah,
grown
down
men.
there
And they had
for
like,
sure.
man, they
They
had
started
like
that
8
early.
coaches. Yeah, getting them dudes ready. I'm like, yo, what's this? This a men's league? Like it did not feel like I was in school. So, you know, I remember the first game down there, the first day of the tournament is tip off. You know, I'm starting. You know, they throw the jump ball up. I'm talking about they tap the ball, it go right over my head. The one dude, he jumped off the floor so high, dunked it so hard, and it got so
Mm-hmm.
loud in that gym. It was a small
Mm-hmm.
gym. It got so loud, you could feel the
Mm-hmm.
ground shaking. I'm like, oh, this is
Mm-hmm.
different. Like JUCO is not
Mm-hmm.
what I thought it was gonna be. So it was a wake up
Mm-hmm.
call for me, basically stating like you ain't as good as you think you are. Like you got some work to do. So, you know, I learned a lot that first year, and really went into that off season after that with the mindset like I need to get better. I need to do things different if I want to get to where I want to go. So, you know, I really just came up with a regimen of waking up early every morning, 5:30, you know, getting some shots up, you know, lifting weights, getting some pool work in. My head coach would come in, helped me with my shot, which really turned things around for me shooting wise, really helped me extend my range. And, you know, I did that for the whole off season while I was on campus. When I went back home, I tried to keep up with that, played in a couple men's leagues, you know, Dykeman, Tri-State, you know, a couple tournaments. Actually got a chance to play against Ron Artest. That was another wake-up call for me on what the NBA
Mm-hmm.
level was like. Like, if you
Mm-hmm.
think you could play at
Mm-hmm.
that level, and that was what, summer of 2011. So that was Ron
Mm-hmm.
Artest coming off of, you know, a championship the year
Mm-hmm.
prior with the Lakers. And I
Mm-hmm.
just never forget, I tried to box him out. Man, he pushed me out of bounds. I thought I was pushing up against a wall. Like I was like this, I couldn't move him. You know what I mean? So that
Mm-hmm.
was just an eye-opening experience for me. Kept working that summer, went down to All-American JUCO Showcase down in Orlando. Coach Brian got me in that. Actually, Riverside, Todd Jerome's dad, Mark Jerome, who used to run Riverside at the time, he helped me get my plane ticket down there. You know, we didn't really have nothing. My mom ain't had no money like
Mm-hmm.
that to get me down there. So, you know, Coach Mark Jerome actually got my plane ticket down there. You know, Coach Brian had put a good word in for me. When I got down there, you know, I was supposed to pay like $100 or something to be a part of this showcase. That for whatever reason, they just said just pay it at the end. It was probably about, I would say about 100 and 160 guys down there, JUCO. trying to get to the next level, trying to get exposure. A lot of coaches was down there. The recruiting scene was a little different. It was a live period. So all of the coaches was up in the bleachers. I seen anywhere from Iona to Georgia Tech to Missouri, some of the SEC schools. Like, it was loaded with coaches. Some top players was there. The ranked JUCO guys was there. The number one player at the time, I believe, was Waverly Austin, who ended up going to Oregon and finishing his career up there. It was a couple guys that was down there. One of them professional dunkers, Will Button. I don't know if you remember him. He had some crazy bounce. He was down there. So, just going down to that showcase was another learning experience for me. But I just knew going to showcases like that, everybody's trying to show that they could score 20, they could score 30. So my mental approach to that was, listen, I'm going to just play the game the right way. I'm going to play defense. I'm going to try to take good shots. I'm going to be a good teammate. Because you're playing with guys that you don't know for these couple games. And, I ended up playing well, man. I made the top 20, got on the All-Star game, and played pretty decent in the All-Star game. Coach Bryan actually got to coach one of the teams down there, and he was a coach in the All-Star game. So I was on the opposite team going against him. So that was kind of cool. And then at the end of the tournament, man, I didn't even have to pay just because I made the top 20. You know what I mean? The guy that was running it at the time was Brad Winton. He's actually a sports agent now. So, I just went down there with an open mindset and did what I need to do. Got a couple looks off of that. Took an unofficial at Iona because of that. And then going into my sophomore year, I just hit the ground running. Like, some coaches was kind of following me. And I ended up playing really well, my sophomore year. I ended up making first team all conference, honorable mention for player of the year, things like that. And I actually led the region in 3-pointers made. And, that was a lot for me just because I wasn't really a 3-point shooter my whole life. I was more of a mid-range guy, as you know. And
you put that work in. Put that work in for it, though.
Yeah, I put that work in, man. And I credit that to Coach Mike Cordovano when I was here. He helped me make a slight adjustment to my shot to help me extend my range. So that really got me a lot of looks from the, D1 and D2 level. So, after making first team, I took a couple visits, to some D2 schools. LIU Brooklyn was after me and stuff like that. And I was going to go to Winthrop down in South Carolina. Coach Bryan kind of had a connection down there. I believe it was Coach Monteleri at the time. And he ended up not being there anymore. So that kind of, dwindled the opportunity for me to go there. But the school that I ended up going to was Edinboro University. You can see the jersey behind me. They were kind of on me from the beginning of the year. And after taking my visit there, knowing that they had a good team already, I knew I could kind of plug myself in there. And I was coming out of a situation my sophomore year where I was playing damn near 40 minutes a game. Because, JUCO dudes fail off. They get kicked off the team. They're making poor choices.
You get a new teammate every semester. You might get somebody different every semester, for real.
And in my 2 years here, that second semester, we lost guys. So we had like 10 guys on the team, 6-7 man rotation. I'm playing 40 minutes. And I don't think I was in the best shape to play 40 minutes at that level. And, I was so tired by the end of the season. It came to a point where when I was getting recruited, I'm like, is there going to be a roster where, I don't have to play 40? You know what I mean? I will if I have to, but it's good knowing that you got some guys with you, that, you could try to make something happen. And that's kind of why I chose Edinboro. They had 2 first-team guys, a couple guys I actually played against in JUCO as well. So I kind of knew their games. And I just thought I would fit well with that.
Playing in a PSAC.
Yeah, PSAC. So you know all about the PSAC.
Come on, I know a little bit. I know a little bit about the PSAC. Pennsylvania guy. How was y'all on the west side, right? Considered the PSAC West?
PSAC West.
Yeah, so I don't know about the west side. I'm over here on the east side of it, on this side of Pennsylvania. So how was playing in the PSAC on the west side for you? Like, what were some of your toughest games?
Man, the west side was tough as well. On our side, we had
west
IUP.
side was tough. West side was tough. IUP should have been D1.
Yeah, they still should be D1. Especially if you see that facility. I know. I think they won it not too long ago.
Yeah, there was I think there was the runner-up. Then there was the runner-up. Then there was the runner-up. The runner-up.
Yeah.
There was the runner-up.
Well, they won the PSAC, you know, a couple times since then.
I'm talking about nationals.
I think they went. Yeah, national. They won.
Nationals,
they went to it was the runner-up. I think I knew one of the guards that was on the team at that time. But yeah, IUP was good. Gannon was pretty good. That was like the rival between Edinboro and Gannon. That game was always packed because you had their alumni from way back in the days coming to that game. You see the 80-year-old alumni, they in the stands. So whether it was at Edinboro or when we went to Gannon, so that was tough. Mercyhurst was pretty good. Cal U, you know, was pretty solid around that time as well. So it was a few schools in the West as well as the East. Like we knew about East Stroudsburg. Like we had to play them. We knew they was going to do that 1-2-2 press the whole game. Westchester was pretty solid at that time. Cheney was still around. Yeah, Cheney was still around. They're no longer in the PSAC. You know, Kutztown and the Mansfield over there. So we knew about the East Side, but we had that crossover match, you know, where you would do that at least a couple times a year. But, you know, the West is pretty competitive as well.
What were some of your memorable games up there in Edinboro?
My most memorable game was definitely the playoff game my junior year against IUP. I had 21 points that game.
Talk to him.
We ended up losing in overtime by 2. Definitely had a chance to win it. You know, our point guard at the time was Jay Fletcher. Shout out Jay Fletch. And, you know, Isaiah Prince was also, you know, on the team. He was first team all conference. Shout out Prince. He actually came to one of my games while I was coaching in Pittsburgh this year. So it was good to see him come and support. But that was probably my most memorable game. You know, I started my junior year actually pretty well. I was coming off the bench as 6th man and kind of bought into that role. And, you know, I was leading the team in scoring, you know, the first couple games. And then I ended up getting a concussion, took an elbow to the face. That took me out for 2 weeks. And then when I came back from that, I kind of took me a little bit to kind of find my footing again. You know, and then that back end of that season, I really started to figure it out again. And, you know, I had a couple good games, but scoring wise, that was probably my best game. My most memorable game, though, is probably the playoff, the first round of the playoffs. We played Mercyhurst, and they had a dude on the other team he was averaging about 16 points a game. He was pretty solid at the D2 level, about 6'6". He was from Brazil, one of their best players, and he was my assignment. So in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just try to lock this dude down. You know what I mean? Like my role ain't really to be the leading scorer, nothing like that. I'm cool with that. Been there, done that. You know, I'm trying to win. So I ended up holding them to 6 points. You know, I didn't really score that well that game, but I just never forget the reactions to my teammates after a game like that. Like you would have thought that I scored 30 the way they was, you know, showing me love and the coaches and whatnot. So that was kind of like a moment where I'm like, yo, it's really not about scoring. Like you really just need to make an impact to help your team win. And, you know, that moment right there meant a lot to me. And it sticks with me till this day. You know, I share that moment with my players at times to try to let them know, like, listen, man, it's not all about that. Like, you could play well and not hit a shot. Like, there's other ways to impact the game.
Affect the game. Yep. That's a fact. So, college is over. What's your next steps after college? After you know, you're done with school now. What you getting into now?
Yeah, so my senior year was actually kind of rough. The coach we had my junior year, he retired right after that season. That was kind of devastating to hear. He really was having some health issues. Coach Walkovich, shout out Coach Walkovich. Hope he's still doing well to this day. But, you know, so the assistant coach took over. And that was his first time being a head coach. Coach Pat Cleary, who's somebody I still keep in touch with till this day. Shout out Coach Pat. You know, so he was still learning the ropes. And then, you know, but it really wasn't a great season. You know, I don't think guys really bought in as much. Like his intentions was good, but guys wasn't really as bought in. And then we lost a couple guys, key guys going into my senior year. So that year was kind of rough. And, you know, so we didn't really play as well as a team. I don't think I performed as well as I could have. So and I had my daughter halfway through the year too, Giselle. So You know, in my mind, I still kind of wanted to go pro. Like I wanted to pursue that, but then I also wanted to be around for my daughter. You know, my dad never knew my dad like that. So, you know, I always said when I had a child, I wanted to be as present as possible. Um, so I kind of had plans to try to see what I could get out of the process after senior year. I went to one of those showcases. One was up in New Hampshire. I actually played well up there. You know, got an offer to play in Portugal, but I believe it was only like it was like 1,500 a month or something like that. And then in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if I want to leave my family, you know, to go do that. So I kind of decided to hang it up a little bit there. But then the opportunity with the Erie Hurricanes popped up. I know I had a semester to do at Edinboro to get my bachelor's degree. And then Erie was 20 minutes away from Edinboro. My teammate at Edinboro, you remember Logue, Jonathan Logan. Shout out Logue. He's still he's living in the Erie area right now. So then that's how I met you, and we played with the Erie Hurricane. We already know how that was. You know, it was kind of a weird dynamic, you know, coming out of college where it's so organized and structured.
Yeah.
And man, how unorganized was that process for us? You know what I mean? And then that was kind of the moment. Yeah, that was kind of the moment where I was like, dude, I don't know. I need to get a job. Like this is not it, you know. So, you know, obviously we finished the season. Did we make the playoffs that year? I really don't remember.
They cheated us.
Yeah, like we were supposed to make the playoffs or something like
but
that,
it gave us to that. But remember, she had the Buffalo team and our team, and she wound up like giving it to the Buffalo team. Then remember we played them. We played them. We blew them out. Then she called us, was like, "Oh no, they messed the score up." How? Like it's by far.
Yeah, it was. I forgot about that. There was a lot going on with there. We're not going to say her name, but a lot of conflict of interest with that. I'm not going to say that on that, but
I just heard me just say it. It was for me. It was a learning experience of the other side of the business of how things can be. So it kind of prepared me for my journey overseas. So I know like every stop wasn't going to be perfect. Then after dealing with that, I could do anything.
Yeah,
after dealing with that situation, so, I could do anything overseas. Like I could do anything.
Yeah, it was just not a good situation. You know, we all learned something from that. But that's kind of when I decided to hang it up, and you know, I ended up getting a job here.
I'm thankful for the connections I made up there for being up there though. Sure. That's one thing I want. That's one thing I want to take back. Like the connections was all that. The connection was all that. I still talk to many of y'all to this day. Yeah, I talk to like majority to this day. Yeah.
Go ahead, what you saying? Everywhere from high school. No, I was just saying everywhere we've been. You know, the relationships that you build with the coaches, with the players, like, you know, from AAU, like a couple of my teammates from AAU, one of them, I'm still best friends with him. We don't talk every day all the time, but when we do link up, it's like we see each other every day. And I try to tell people that's like true friendship, man. When you got guys that you don't gotta check on every single day, you're not talking to them all the time, but when y'all do speak and when you do link up, it's like you guys was around each other all the time. Like I hear people in some friendships and relationships where they get mad, like, why you not hitting me up? Or why? Like, I'm like, that's not a genuine relationship right there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't talk to my best friend every day, but when we do, like, we know what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't talk to you all the time, but every time we speak, look, it's love. Like we talk to each other all the time. It's all love all the time. So, you know, that's the number one thing I just love from my journey as a player, and even as a coach now, I'm getting that same feel, you know, with other, you know, guys that are coaching as well, especially former players that really understand the grind.
So let's go into that transition. But before we go, just like you said that, like we say about relationships, I met a kid up there, Jalil. Kayla used to introduce me to him when I first came and played up there with him. And been me and him, like we've been in touch together ever since. I done stayed over his house. He done came to Philly. We done kicked it. I done been in New York with him. He done had me all over New York, all over connections. But I know, like, that's why I say with that time.
You talking about Jalil Gary? Yep.
Yeah. So it's like if it wasn't for Aerie, even though it's like it was a shit show, I would have made that connection. I got our brother for life. You feel me? So I'm thankful for all that,
Yeah.
especially all y'all, all the guys. Like I see all the guys on social will hit each other. No, ain't no hard. Everybody knows the shit. We know we was dealing with. You know what I mean? But it was like the relationship that we built, and now everybody into that next chapter in their life. Now we're able to help each other out another way. You know, I'm
Nah,
thankful
for
for my
sure.
time up there. I'm thankful for my time up there. So now
Yeah.
I'm about to ask you. So you spoke on it. From knowing how your career had went, how things had transpired. You know, you at the end of the road, you at that crossroad. So what made you decide, like, all right, coaching?
You know, it's kind of funny because obviously, you know, I have my daughter, my fiance, soon to be wife. You know, she's from the Jamestown area. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
instead of like going back home to the city after college, because I graduated December of 2014 with my bachelor's degree, you know, stayed up here and you know just trying to figure it out. You know, I know she had to go back to school, wanted her to go back to school to get her degree. You know, so it was kind of just trying to figure it out on the fly. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I had a communications degree. I knew that degree was pretty broad, that I could get into some different kind of things. I ended up working for Pepsi for a summer. You know, worked as hard as I could with that. You know, that situation was kind of unique because it was a temporary position. So I kind of told
Mm-hmm.
myself I'm gonna take this, you know, and try to figure it out when the summer was over. You know, I remember in the interview process, the guy, um, you know, Mr. Whitney, he told me in the interview process, like, this is a temp job. Like, we really don't hire people full time out of this. Because I kind of went into that interview hoping that I would get like a full time position, you know, if I worked hard. So he kind of shut it down right then and there. So I was just like, you know what, if I get the job, you know, I'm gonna just work hard and figure it out. You know, ended up, you know, working really hard, made some great relationships while working there, still in touch with some of them guys, see them around town and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, then the Jamestown job kind of opened up as a residence director. You know, I was a resident assistant as a student on campus, and that's something that I enjoyed. And as a
Mm-hmm.
residence director, that kind of opened up. So I started applying for that position. Um, and kid you not, the same week that I had kind of got offered that position, my boss at Pepsi brought me into the office. I thought I was in trouble. I thought I did something wrong, but he basically offered me a full time position at Pepsi. And I was like, wow, like, you know, for all
That's
of this to
crazy.
happen in 1 week, you know, it kind of
Yeah.
just told me, like, yo, no matter what job you do, and I tell my guys this now, like, whether you like the job or not, work as hard as you can because you don't know what's going to come out of it. You know, and then for
Mm-hmm.
him to offer me that position, he knew I wanted to coach. He knew I was pursuing a job at the college. And then I told him I was going to go that route working at the
Mm-hmm.
college. And he was like, well, if you ever need a job, give me a call. And that's something that, you know, really stuck with me too. So, you know, I felt
That's
good
dope.
leaving there. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
treated us like family when I was there. And then I ended up taking a residence director job at Jamestown. And then an assistant job for coaching opened up as well. For our now athletic director, he was the head coach, George Sisson, you know, who's currently my boss in the AD here at Jamestown. He was the head coach. You know, I came on as a volunteer coach just because I had that full time position, but I wanted to coach. I remember what Jamestown did for me as a player, as a student. I said, I want to help guys that was like me, you know, achieve what they want to achieve. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I ended up at Jamestown coaching and working here.
How dope is that going back to your alma mater to go coach? That's a lot of people don't get that in their lifetime.
Then man, it's super dope because I didn't have this planned at all. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't in the cards, but when the opportunity presented itself, it was almost like a no brainer. And just
Mm-hmm.
being here now, just the guys that we've been able to help, you know, it just means everything. You know, former players reaching back out. You know, I just got off the phone with one of our former guys last night. You know, he's from Alabama, and then we get guys from all over the world, all over the country to come here. So you know, just though again, those relationships, man, they mean more than the wins and the losses. You know, obviously we're still trying to win here. You know, it's been a learning experience for me, but you know, just those relationships that you build, it just means everything.
All right. So now you went from assistant coach, volunteer coach to
Mhm.
assistant coach now. But now you head coach now.
Yeah, the way that happened was just a crazy situation. So I was the
Mm-hmm.
assistant coach for 4 years. You know, really learning the ropes. The head coach
Mm-hmm.
George Sisson, he was very he was a vet in the game. Like he's been coaching for about 25 plus years. D3 level, NAIA level. So my mindset was to just learn as much as I could from him. The person that got me into that told me to reach out to him to get on staff was Coach Brian. Coach Brian Hodgson told me reach out to George. Try to get into coaching. Like I guess he must have saw something in me and told me to kind of pursue that. So I was able to just learn so much from him in that 4 years. Because as a player, you coming up, you just know yourself. Like, all right, I got to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, help my teammates and whatnot. I got to make sure I know what I'm doing in the plays and where I need to be. But that transition to a coach is like, now you got to know what everybody's supposed to be doing. So I was just a sponge, man. I always try to pride myself on a coachable person. So I tried to be a sponge while he was the head coach. And then I found out like 3 days before it was announced that I was going to become the head coach. That was in 2019, halfway through the year, because the current athletic director at the time, had stepped down, and Coach Sisson became the AD. And he just automatically said, listen, X is going to be, the coach, the interim coach. They just kind of gave me the position, and it was a lot for me at the time. I wasn't really fully prepared, but thankfully I've been paying attention the last 4 years on how to do certain things. So I was kind of thrown into the fire at the position, and, was really just been learning on the fly. Obviously he helped me through the process. Now that he was my boss, he kind of kept showing me the ropes. We actually, that year I took over midway, and we ended up losing the semifinal to one of the schools in the conference. And, that's kind of what got me the official head job after that year. So to be able to announce that and, be able to do that and still be able to do it, definitely a blessing.
So now you got the rings. You head man in charge now. So tell me what's your mindset now of building a winning culture?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm still continuing trying to do, especially just utilizing the resources that we have. Trying to build connections to try to get the best players that we can get up here. Because something that I've learned over the years, it's not just about the X's and O's. It's definitely about the relationships. It's definitely about the players that you get. I used to go to a lot of camps as an assistant. I did Syracuse, West Virginia, Maryland, Notre Dame, Michigan State, different camps, just working those camps, trying to learn from those coaching staffers, build connections. And I remember when I was down at Westview, Coach Billy Hahn, who was retired at the time, but helping Coach Huggins out. He always used to say, it ain't about the X's and the O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. So, I remember that was one of his saying, and it's true, man. Like you can have all of these X's and O's that in your mind, or if I got a team, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But you gotta have the personnel to do it too. So, that's something that, like we've had some solid players here, that have grown in our time, but just continuing to try to get better is something that is going to continue to help to build a culture here, especially like a winning culture. So, I've failed a bunch of times. I've, succeeded in certain ways, but just continuing to learn who I am as a coach, who I want to be, and just trying to help guys along the way. Just being able to get some guys from all over due to some, financial incentives we have here, to try to cut costs, that helps. But we lack some other things too in terms of resources, but I'm not using that as an excuse. I know that there's guys out there that were like me that just needed an opportunity, and I'm just continuing to try to find those guys, to try to help grow the program.
So when you going in and you trying to find a recruit, what are you looking for in the players that you're trying to find?
Especially now, obviously you're looking for talent, ability, things of that nature. But past that, I really try to recruit mindset as well. I try to do my best to do my homework on guys. I can't be too picky, because at the same time, like we don't have full scholarships here. So, guys gonna have to either take out a student loan, do a payment plan. Like, you know how that goes. Not every school gets, full scholarships.
Yeah.
So, I try to do as much homework as I can on guys, maybe talk to their coaches or, parents and whatnot, but definitely trying to recruit the mindset. Are they coachable? Are they a team guy? Do they care about their academics? Right? Because, college is different than high school, because in high school, the teacher will probably be on you about doing your work and getting stuff done. But once you get to college, that professor is going to get paid whether you get an A or an F. You know what I mean? So you got to really have some sort of self-discipline. It's you're being exposed to being independent a little bit. You got different class schedule than your teammates. So trying to get guys that will understand that as much as possible. Not that they won't struggle a little bit here, but at least their mind is in the right place of going to class, getting to class on time, not having too many excuses when it comes to that stuff. And then also having a work ethic, outside of practice. A lot of guys just think 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day of practice is enough, and we just try to reiterate that you need to be putting in work outside of practice, as well as keeping up with your studies. Like, you got to have some sort of time management. One of the questions I get a lot in recruitment is the gym open 24/7. And, it's funny because even if it was, most guys ain't in there as much as they used to anyway. You know what I mean? Like, our gym opens at 6 a.m., closes at 8 p.m., right? So I try to tell guys, get up in the morning. 6 a.m. ain't nobody really in there. So classes don't start till about 8:30, 9 a.m. So you got some time to get some work in. I did it as a player here. I had to sacrifice a little sleep or a little staying up, with friends to achieve what I wanted to achieve. So, just don't make it as an excuse that the gym is not open 24/7, because it's just habits that you see over time where most guys ain't in there as much as they should be. So,
No, that's the
that's
Instagram talk
something
I
that,
call it. That's the IG
yeah,
call. That's
like
the IG talk I call it. They ain't really dedicated for real. For real. It sound good though.
yeah, the guys that's not in there, they the ones that's complaining about this and that and the third. So it's like, listen, you got to put some work in, if you want to get what you need to get, or
Yeah.
whatever it is that you want to achieve. Because yes, we're here to help you with that, but 90% of that is going to be on you. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to help you that other 10%, teaching you, obviously loving on you, making sure you got what you need. I live on campus, so I'm here all the time. We try to be a resource to our guys as much as possible. But at the same time, they got to figure it out a little bit as well.
All right, I got a question. Knowing that you have limited resources up there, I think a lot of junior colleges do unless they have like a big backing. How do you balance, coaching, recruiting, and player development at your school?
So with coaching, I kind of try to tackle everything while it's in front of me. Recruiting, throughout the year, I will kind of keep tabs on guys and try to keep in touch with players. But during the season, I'm really focused on us. I'll have my assistant, try to keep tabs on certain guys, whether they're in the area. Social media is a big tool that we use to recruit now. We don't really have the funds to travel all over the country or, every other weekend to go see players. So a lot of what we do recruiting wise is over the phone, social media, the sharing of film, going to showcases in the off season, going to a high school game, going to, hosting a workout, guys coming on a visit, so that's kind of the tools that we use in order to do our recruiting. During the season, I'm really locked into us, whether I'm watching film, trying to plan, game plan, practice, game plan for a game, skill development. I always like to start practice with at least the first 30, 40 minutes of practice is some sort of skill development. And I try to tell our guys, most of these things that we do, in practice in terms of skill development, you can do on your own. So we might only spend, 10, 15 minutes or less on something. This is what you got to do on your own, playing off 2 feet, developing a solid shot fake, just footwork is such a big adjustment, for guys coming in. So we try to spend some time on that. And other things guys need to work on, whether it's their shot, their ball handling, understanding rotations on defense. So sometimes we'll drill things like that. And then in the off season, like right now, our off season has begun. So this at this time of year, like this time, we're gonna do it like once a week, where I have the guys come down on like a Friday, like today, to get some work in. Because like the way their class schedules are, Fridays they don't have class, so it's a good time for us to try to get together, split guys up to work on what. And I also make it optional in the off season because I also like to see who wants to
We're
come
doing
in and
really
get this
short.
work. You know what I mean? Some guys may not, we live in an era now where everybody think the grass is green on the other side. They may not want to come back, So, various different reasons why guys may not show up. But, for the most part, guys usually do. We got one of our former players coming back. He's actually coming in this on Saturday to work with our team. He's a trainer now. So, he was an all-region point guard for us back when I was an assistant my first 2 years. And he wants to come and work with our guys. So he's going to be here all next week working with them. So we'll do stuff like this, to try to help guys develop. I'll do one-on-one sessions with them to try to help them get better as well.
So when you evaluating talent, do you just base it off of stats and game film? How do you evaluate talent?
All of the above. I mean, it's not always about the numbers. I've learned that just, a guy can have all these points in high school, but who's he playing against? Who's he playing with? That plays a factor. So a lot of guys, most guys don't know how to play with other good players. So, that's not, you can't really see that on film all the time, but, you kind of find those things out, when you get guys here, but, it's not always about those things. Like nowadays, I look to see how hard a kid is playing, regardless of who his competition is. The pace is a lot different at the college level. So some of these high school games I watch, a lot of guys not even running the floor hard. You know what I mean? So can you make that adjustment when you get to college? Because now you really got to go. You know what I mean? And you playing against better guys, regardless of what level you go to. Like, I mean, the drop off from high school, the amount of guys that play in high school or college, it's a major drop off on any level. So, you in high school, you might have went up against 2, 3, maybe 4 good players, maybe, and that's rare. But there's usually always a stud on the other team. When you get to college, you're playing against at least 8, 9 guys that was the man on the high school team. Then you also got teammates that was always that way. So, when I'm evaluating film, I'm looking at different things. The numbers will draw you to a guy. Like, all right, he's averaging 22 points a game in high school. I want to see a full game. Highlight tapes, will kind of draw you in as well. But I like to watch full games on guys as much as possible. Everybody looks good on the highlight tape.
Yes.
But you kind of want to see the good, bad, and indifferent, in the recruiting process. Nowadays, I'm also trying to see guys in person as much as possible, right? You can't go off of what everybody tells you all the time. Like, he might say he's 6'5" and he's really 6'2", or he's 6'1". So, I want to see what you look like in person, how you look against other guys in person. So that's something I'm currently trying to do as much as possible.
What's your main area for recruiting? Like, I know is it like, because I know your budget is limited, just in New York State type thing, or I know you close to PA also, like you got Erie and all Pittsburgh, all that right there as well. So
so Philly is about 6 hours from here. So is New York City. So is Maryland. So it's kind of like one point where we're like 6 hours from everybody on the East Coast. So predominantly, we try to get a New York guy just because of the financial aid stipulations. Like, you get more aid as being an in-state, student. But we have a grant here on campus where if you live on campus, no matter where you're from, you could get in-state tuition. So that has kind of helped us get guys from out of the area. But even if you get scholarship, even if you get full financial aid, you still gonna have to come out of pocket in some way. So that kind of deters some guys, because we've come across some really good talent, but the money kind of shies guys away, so they wait around forever up until it's too late. The way I had to look at it, especially coming to Jamestown, was I didn't have no full ride offers on the table, so I had to go JUCO. So I was investing in myself for the 2 years that I was here. so that I could get those last 2 years paid for. So that's kind of something that I tell some guys that are kind of worried about that, because you know, if you're able to get though, because JUCO is not too expensive compared to like a 4-year school. Like for
That's a
us,
fact.
if you don't get any financial aid, it's like 14, 15 grand to come here for the year. And that's housing with a meal plan, laundry, you on campus and everything. So that's not horrible, even compared to some
Nah.
D3 schools who are expensive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not a bad investment. You know,
Yeah.
it's good basketball, competitive league. So I try to sell that to guys as much as possible. But you know, we'll take guys from everywhere. We got international players. You know, obviously they got to have a budget before we could really bring them in. But we've had guys from PA, Florida, Ohio, you know, from all over. So, you know, Maryland, you know, so I try to tackle the guys that are near us as much as possible. But you know, that's kind of my mindset and our mindset on that approach.
So, how was it like, you know, because my JUCO, we didn't have housing at all. We had to get like off apartments on our own. How is that advantage for you having housing for your players and helping you with recruiting?
It's a huge advantage because there is a lot of JUCOs that don't have housing. Like we have one in our conference that doesn't have housing. The rest of us do, but that school doesn't. So, you know, it's kind of funny because guys coming out of high school, they only know what they know. So if they come straight to us, they don't realize that sometimes they don't realize the opportunity that they have here or the convenience that you have here. You know what I mean? Even some other schools that may have housing, it's a much bigger campus. So, you know, to be able to get to where you need to get to on campus in 5 minutes or less, you know, there's not really appreciated right away. Now, when we have guys that may have transferred here or sat out a year or whatever the case may be, they appreciate it much more because they know what those other situations look like. You know, kind of like my story. Like I didn't know what I was going into. I thought this was the norm, you know, but visiting other JUCOs when we went and played them, I'm like, oh, this is different. You know what I mean? So that's a huge advantage for us just from a convenience standpoint. So even if you do have to spend some money, whether it's loans, payment plans, whatever the case may be, it's worth it because you also gonna get a good education. You know, we're a SUNY school. You know, it's proven that when people graduate from our institution and they move on to the 4-year level, they do well there too academically. So, you know, you're gonna get a good education. You got to do the work. Like no one's gonna let you slide because you're on the team. You know, that type of stuff.
All right, now I'm about to put you to the test. I'm gonna say I am a 17, 18-year-old kid. From PA. I'm from Philadelphia. My SAT scores aren't the best. My GPA is all that. I'm looking for a school. You know, man, I'm looking for. I have to go JUCO. I can't go D1. I got things lined up for D1 later, but I got to go JUCO right now.
Yeah.
Sell me your school. Sell me why I should come to your school.
Okay. My first question though would be, what are you looking for in a junior college? That's my first question. What are you looking for in a JUCO opportunity?
Okay. I got to answer that question.
Yeah. I want to know because you.
Oh, okay.
We role playing here, right?
Okay. I like it. Okay. Well, knowing what I know now, I'm looking for a place I can develop, I can learn. That's a small classroom learning, so I can be alert. I want to make sure that all my guys are going to be eligible. That I'm ahead of my whole team all year round. Need consistency. I'm the one that really needs gym access. You just tell me the gym hours. I could figure my own schedule out. You have dorms. You have meal plan. And what's the competition like that we're going to be playing against? And first and foremost, what's your majors? What's the majors you have at your school?
Yeah, well, to answer that last question first, major-wise, we have quite a few. We have 100+ certifications, degrees. You know, I could send you a link so you can observe what that is. You know, in terms of what you're looking for, you know, I always tell people as a coach that has played here, you know, this is the perfect place to focus on school and basketball. There is not much distractions in the area. If you're really looking for a distraction, there always is one, but you know, it's not a huge party scene up here. You're also not in the middle of nowhere. Jamestown has a population of 30,000 people. So it's not like you in a country and nothing else is around. There is a countryside or a rural side of Jamestown, but there's also kind of a urban city side of it too. There's certain places around the campus that's walking distance. So there is some things to do outside of campus, but if you want to focus on those two things, this is the place to be. You're going to have a coaching staff that's going to pour into you. We're not going to tell you what you want to hear all the time. We're going to hold you accountable as much as possible, not only to help you, but to also prepare you for what that next step is that you say you want, right? You want to get to the Division I level. A lot of that's going to be on you and your production here, not only on the court, but off the court as well. All right. This is not something where you just show up and we just pick up the phone and just, call wherever you want to go. Right. You got to be able to have that work ethic, have that mindset, be coachable, and we can help you with all of this stuff. You're going to struggle at some point. We're still here for you. You know what I mean? Whether that's academically, whether that's on the court, we are a resource. So, that's one of the main things I would really tell guys. Like I said, I started with that question of what are you looking for? Because we might not have what you're looking for based on what you're saying. But hearing on what you said, we could definitely offer that to you. You know what I mean? Obviously, finances and stuff play a part in that. But if this is what you're looking for, this is the place to be.
I like that pitch, yo. I might sign with y'all.
Oh, are you gonna sign or what? You want to take a visit? What we got to do?
I got to come see the campus. I got to come see the camp. I might got to come take a visit. Listen up. Yo, and I was so shout out back then, right? And all I cared about, like, I'm a crazy sneaker boy. You know this offhand.
Yeah.
What's crazy? Pause that. You know what I just thought about, yo? I traded you a pair of Kobe's for a pair of LeBrons, bro.
Yes, you did. I was happy to do it too. I thought about that.
But I had so many of them. That's why, though, bro. I had so many pair of Kobe's, bro. It didn't make sense at the time, bro. Yeah, I was like, I needed something different. I needed a different feel. You was like, we wore the same size. Yo, I could get them. Yeah, you want these? You looked at my joints like, them joints brand new. You don't want them? No, you can have these, bro. Cool. I remember that. But that's how I would have been, though. I remember them. Yeah, I remember them joints. But that'd have been me. Like, so who y'all sponsor? I need to know that for your school. Who y'all sponsored by? Who y'all wear?
We're not sponsored. Yeah, we're not sponsored. Most schools aren't sponsored, but we do wear Under Armour. Our jerseys, our travel gear, we wear Under Armour. We used to get shoes for guys, but they always wanted to wear their own shoes. So that's something that we kind of just stopped getting shoes. I'm like, yo, you guys do what you want. If a guy needed a pair of shoes, we'd get it for him. But big on need, you know what I mean? Some guys, they just want the shoes to have it, they don't never wear them, so resources is limited. So it's like if somebody needs something, we'll get it for them. And that's another thing too. When I came in, I didn't have all the money in the world. My mom, the thing she did for me to make sure I was fed when I was up here, she used to freeze food, use her food stands to freeze food and send it up here. You know what I mean? And it would get here in 2 days, still be cold. Yeah, the ice packs and everything in there, and that really helped me get through. Obviously, the events on campus, they're gonna feed you here and there. We're gonna feed you when you're with the team. But if anybody's struggling with something, we're gonna help them with it because we want to make sure guys have what they need. Sometimes that could take some time because nobody wants to speak up, when they need something. But we try to make that known with guys. But I remember them gray and black soldiers, man, and I had the red. He gave me the red Kobe's.
The red, white, and black ones. But yeah,
if I'd have, man, rest in peace, Kobe, man, I would
rest in peace to the band. Listen, I
a couple pairs, but they cooked.
Yeah. No, what's crazy is I was fortunate, bro. All my joints still in good condition. And I got a pair I never touched yet. The all white ones, I never even touched yet. They still in the box.
Well, don't wear those.
But it's yeah. What's crazy? I'm thinking about putting them in the case, for the man cave. But in all, I just want to give all my niggas to my son. Go ahead, you can wear them all. He'll be there in like another year. It'll be like another year and a half.
What size you wearing right now?
10. 10. So they
Oh yeah, he
13s,
gonna get
14.
that.
So he'll get
Yeah,
there.
he gonna get that.
Yeah, he gonna get there. Everybody, I need them shoes. In my mind, everything going to him. My oldest one is all going to him. And go ahead and rock out. You do what you
Yeah,
want to do
man.
with
Well,
those.
hopefully one day, man, we could put this place on a map and we just become so good that one of these companies want to sponsor us. I don't know if
No,
there's a lot of if any JUCOs got some
no,
type of
they some.
sponsorships.
No, it's more like a who they get the jerseys by and stuff like that. It's kind of like off, or
Mm-hmm.
but some actually are sponsored though. Some of them are sponsored. We'll talk offhand. We'll talk off air to show you how to make a pitch together, so you can at least get like the apparel and stuff for free for your school. That's another thing. You know,
Okay,
I can help you do that, John, too.
that'll help
It's
because
like
we do some
yeah,
fundraising. You
yeah,
know that like this year we worked a couple of the Buffalo Bills games security. We did that,
mm,
so that was a cool experience. You know, while
that's
it was
tough.
fundraising, it's also team
That's tough.
bonding as well.
Yeah, that's tough. That's nice.
That's something that it's just things that we do to try to fundraise and get some more funds and stuff like that.
You just need a coat up there. You don't need a jacket. You need a coat up there. It get cold up there.
Yeah, you need a coat and some boots.
Yeah.
Not no butters, not the Timbs. You need some insulated boots. You know what I mean? A North Face. Get you a pair of North Face.
Facts. I think I had some ACG boots at the time and some butters. My feet was frozen, bro. Like,
Nah, ACG.
yeah. I had to
The
get a
city.
warrior up that thing. No.
Yeah, that's for
So
NYC and Philly and that.
yeah. So yeah, what's your plans moving forward? You know, the season's over for y'all. So what's your plan moving forward? Looking forward to the off season. What's your plans?
Man, been doing a lot of recruiting at the moment. Got a few offers out there. We just try to tell guys, listen, we speak to a lot of guys daily, whether it's on the phone, social media, so we offer you, we want you to be a part of the program, but when you accept that offer, it's really first come, first serve if you have an offer. So you know how JUCO is. You got to recruit more than what you need. You never know who's not going to show up, who lied about a transcript or something like that. And, so it's a tryout process, at some point, especially in the preseason, because we like to evaluate everything. Like me personally, I obviously we want to see what you could do on the court, but how are you moving off the court, right? You go into class, you behaving like you're not getting into those situations off campus or on campus. That stuff is important on building a program. You want to try to have as much good character as possible. Is it perfect all the time? No, but that's also times where we try to teach guys how to learn from their mistakes.
Got you.
Hopefully it's not nothing too crazy, but we're 19, 18, 19-year-old guys and older, so you try to put that together. Could be tough at times.
So I got a couple more questions before we wrap up. So the one I want to ask you about this new JUCO rule that's going around. How do you think that's going to help you in the recruiting process in a sense now?
Yeah, that's been floating around a lot, but it's not official.
Yeah, not official
It's
yet.
official for the one guy that I think he had like a court situation with it and he got approved. But if that is approved, I think it'll be great. It'll hurt the post grads. I think it'll put a lot of post grads out because JUCO could more become of a developmental stage for guys for that 4-year level. But I think it'll be great because you hear it a lot in recruiting. Oh, well, I want to go to JUCO for a year and then try to go here. What a lot of, student athletes fail to understand is, number one, you got to be a qualifier. You know what I mean? You got to go through that eligibility center to see if you could even go 1 year of JUCO. Because if you're not a qualifier out of high school, you got to do 2 years of JUCO. You got to get a degree, I should say. Hopefully that only takes you 2 years, but you need 60 credits to waive that. That's how it was for you and I. Like we weren't eligible out of high school, so we had to go JUCO. When I got that 60 credits, I had the waiver for the eligibility center. So that's still the case. So if that does get approved, man, I think it'll be great because now guys will be more comfortable spending 2 years at a JUCO, knowing that they can prepare for the 4-year level. I mean, you got guys, you hear stories of dudes playing at the 4-year level for 6, 7 years, because of all of the red shirt and the medical red shirt and you know what I mean, all of this other stuff. So, 4 years is not really a long time. You got guys playing 5-6 years already, so you might as well put something in place where, me personally, I think that NJCA and the NCAA should really come together, and be under one umbrella so that the transition phase is much smoother than what it is. Because you got some guys taking classes that's not even going to transfer, and that hurts their eligibility. So I just think we all need to get on the same page to try to help these guys, and girls as well, get to that next level.
My lad, I got 2 more questions. So we talked about the player. We talked about the players a lot, about the recruiting and everything. But you can't do it all by yourself. So how do you select your staff to complement you?
Yeah, the staffing for me is pretty tough when it comes to the resources because I have a few volunteer coaches. Like we don't really have the funds to have a full staff. I get one part-time assistant. Even my position is part-time. It's not really part-time though. I'm working 365 to try to make this thing work. So, and that's not a slight to my institution or anything like that. That's just the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? So, just trying to work around that. Right now, I got Coach Dan coaching with me, Coach Dan Mumbala coaching with me right now. He played with me on the Jackals. I played for the Jackals for 1 season. And he was my teammate. He lives in the area, so he's been my part-time assistant. This was his first year, so he's kind of learning the ropes as a coach. Then we had Coach Jim Rissell, who's been a part of the program for 12 years. This man is 79 years old, but he's moving around like he's 40. You know what I mean? Like, I really hope I'm like that at 79. He's just been, he really been like a mentor to me, or like a father figure as well. Just watching my growth over the years. And then we got Pastor Reggie, who's a pastor who also has, history of playing. He played at Hilbert College back in his day, so he's around when he can be. And we've had a couple other volunteers in the past. So I try to make that work as much as possible. Hopefully in the near future, we could do some different things so we can have a legitimate staff because I think it's important. It's tough hearing the same voice all year. It's easy to tune that out. So it's important to have other voices around you that guys gravitate towards, that they can relate with them, because it can't just be one voice all the time.
No, I respect. That's crazy that now you're giving people the insight of how JUCO basketball is. So a lot of folks don't know. They just think, everybody got a full-time paid position, but now you're letting them know. All right, my last message to you. It's kind of cliche. I kind of ask everybody. What's the advice that you will give your younger self? What's some advice you will give your younger self?
That's a good question. My advice would just to be to stay the course. Live in the moment. Focus where your feet are at. Like I used to always just think about, all right, I'm a coach here, and I'm gonna try to coach at the D1 level and da 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 da. But I've just learned, just listen. You here right now. Let's focus on being good where we're at. All of that other stuff, will happen when it's supposed to happen. And I've just come to a point where I really want to try to establish this program, regardless of what's going on. I really feel that we can make it work. So, I would tell my younger self, continue to be an open book, always continue to learn, be good where your feet are at, and just continue to try to grow. And continue to help people along the way, because a lot of people have helped me. I haven't done this on my own. I couldn't be able to do what I do without my family, without the coaches that has helped me, who's also family to me, and, without teammates as well. So, just focus on those things, and, everything else is going to come to fruition when it's supposed to, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do.
No, that's love. That's love. Any shout outs you want to give before we wrap this up?
Definitely want to shout out my fam, my fiance, soon to be wife, my daughter, Jazzy, my AD, who's also, been a mentor to me, my assistants, and my former players and current players. Man, they kind of make me who I am. I'm continuing to learn every day. I'm not a finished product. My mindset is I would never be a finished product. I'm always just trying to learn something. Made a million mistakes, but that's a part of it, and then just continuing to grow. That's the main thing. But I definitely want to shout those people out. Just because they helped me where my feet are at today. Just want to thank you for having me on. You always was one of my favorite teammates. Like we stated before, we don't talk all the time, but when we do, it's all love. I love what you're doing with the podcast. I know you kind of just started this out not too long ago. But anything I could do to help you, to help the podcast grow and help you, just let me know, bro.
Got you. I appreciate you, bro. For sure.
Got you.
Yo, that's another episode, man. Shout out my brother X, man, tapping in. Everybody stay tapped in. Rec Close Podcast, everything. Like, subscribe, share. We on Instagram. We on TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Everywhere you get your podcasts at. Rec Close Podcast, and I'm out.